Yo, what's going on, Nashville Fit Fam? It is your boy, Jarrell Webb, and I'm here with
Your girl, Sav.
Sexy
Hi.
Sav over here,
Sexy
baby.
Sav. That's the nicest girl's ever
yeah.
been to me. Thanks, Jarrell.
Before we get started, this podcast is brought to you by BFT, Body Fit Training. Body Fit Training is located in Brentwood, Tennessee. BFT's progressive programming includes 13 different 50-minute class types that are led by 2 to 3 highly accredited coaches in a welcoming and inclusive environment. Shout out to my people at BFT and Brentwood. Yeah. What up, Savvy Sav? What's good?
What's up? We were talking about just before this.
Your accents?
Yes. Do you have any?
I don't.
Jarrell, I asked him to do a British accent, and he won't do one.
I don't have a British accent.
Okay, can you do any impressions?
Impressions are my thing, Sav. I'm sorry. Impressions.
Get better. No,
I
kidding. What about you,
I
Molly?
should practice around the house. Like I don't do. Yeah, I don't have. You said you had multiple.
Okay, so I have very specific ones.
What are the other ones?
Like I can
British?
do British, like intellects. Like I'm afraid to do it right now because I feel like I'm gonna get nervous.
It's real now, baby. Let's go.
Well, I can do like the dirty British, where you're talking really like it's like that, you know, and you think like really brute, and then you have your prim and proper, you know, where you have a cup of tea and you gather
Why are
around.
you whispering when you say that?
Because it's prim and proper. It's prim and proper. It's dainty.
What else? What else you got in the bag over there? I want you guys to rate Sav's accents.
I can do like a southern accent, but what's ironic is my southern accent's the worst one, and I'm from the South. So, and you have different southern intellects too, because you got like real redneck where you can just like not real make sense, you know.
I don't know where.
I feel
don't
like
know what just happened
one.
right here.
And then my favorite one
definitely
to
getting
do is
canceled.
like a very northern like Minnesota. Like
How does
Northeast.
Minnesota?
Oh, you know, yeah, that sounds like this, you know, and we're just happy to be here.
Got you.
And
Wow.
picking up the kids from soccer, and what else would I want to say with that? Oh, don't you know? It's
Sad.
we're just having a good time here, you know. So
You want a fun fact? And this isn't one of our fun facts.
is that not a fun enough fact for you?
The British accent and the Southern accent are the same accents.
Oh, that's good to know. I can sharpen that up a little bit.
Yeah. Like,
Thank you for the feedback.
Like when you compare them side by side, like because of like colonialism, they're literally the same.
I mean, that's a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like literally the same accent.
That's like probably an actual fact.
No, it is. I'm serious. It's a real fact.
That's crazy.
You know, I just look like this. I'm kind of smart too.
Well, then how come like? I'm afraid to ask that question. One of them
Go
just
for
sounds
it.
more sophisticated. Like,
Does
granted,
it?
I'm from the South.
Does it though,
and
or
my
is it just
parents
slower?
have Southern accents, but
It's just a little
Could be.
slower.
Could
Just
be.
a little slower. That's all.
Yeah.
But if you put the side by side, the way we say certain words, the way those words,
so we need to get a redneck and a British person to stand
and
next to each other.
they'll talk the exact same. They will understand
right.
each other.
Next podcast, that's who we're having on.
Anyway, we're not alone here. We're here with my girl, Molly.
I wish we were. I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. We're here with my girl, Molly. Right, she's like, well, I can get out of here if you guys want me to. Molly vanMaarth.
You got it.
I got
Nailed
it. Boom. Killed it. And this, our first episode or our first segment is going to be brought to you by Freshie Tequila Seltzer. And we're going to go right into our basket of debate. All right?
Okay.
So you, Molly, are going to pick one of these random topics. We'll read it out loud, and we'll just debate the topic.
All right.
It's a little fun, little
Excellent.
icebreaker.
I love it.
Yeah?
Like
Yep.
sometimes it's a question, sometimes it's like a
Yeah.
statement.
The last one
statement.
was talking about actors, which I'm like really
Well, we're
bad
talking
at.
about
So
natty
this
or
is
not.
something I have no idea
Okay.
what we're talking about. Maybe we'll. Oh, what is your gym etiquette pet peeve?
Ooh,
Ooh.
good one.
Okay, you're the guest, so you got to go first.
Yeah.
I will just say probably nothing because I think I am the obnoxious person
Oh,
in the
no.
gym. I am the
Yeah?
person that will be
Okay.
writing, like 10 paragraph posts in between sets.
Well,
I
that's
am the
between
biggest
you.
weight
Yeah.
hog. I mean,
Yeah, you
I
got
love
all the
circuits.
weights?
I can
So like
definitely
I'll
guilty
have
of that.
dumbbells and barbells and everything. They're all
Everything,
mine.
right? All these are
They're
mine.
all
No,
mine.
I'm using all
So
of
if
this.
somebody
I'll
comes
share.
up and I was just gonna say, like, are you like stingy in the fact that like you just have them there and like you've made your little pile of toys, or
Okay, wait.
when somebody comes up to you and asks like, hey, are you about to be done with that? Are you like, no, I have 4 more sets.
That's
Like,
me.
are you
Don't
that-
ask me, bro.
I
don't,
would
don't ask me.
No, I would probably share. Here's something that does bother me. If I'm on like a cable machine with 2 cables, you know the smaller cable machines where you've got the cables like right next
Yep.
to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's like maybe the other cable machines over there with cables far apart. If I'm over here, even if I am just using one,
Right.
someone will come up and be like, "Are you using the other
Ooh.
side?" I'm like,
Personal space.
technically no.
But I don't want you
but
over
also,
here.
there
I
are
don't want you right
But
next
also,
to
so
me.
many.
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
that. That's
you know,
a good one.
personal space.
Re-racking weights. That's like been from the beginning of my career the one that gets me the most. I mean, I could
Yeah.
go on, but like at the same time, I know there are so many people going in and out of gyms. I never want to be someone that is scaring someone from being in the gym because they just don't know. But I feel like that's like also just like what you do at your house, what you do
Yeah.
when you go to someone else's house. Like re-rack your weights. Don't leave 45s on the freaking bar so that I have to take them off. It's not like I can't lift it, but I don't want to. I don't want to lift yours.
I
wanna lift mine.
literally just did a post the other day about that, and I said some people, you can tell that some people have never had to spell their name in a stadium. Like that was one of our punishments, like for having a dirty weight room in college. Like you would have to go, so like 50-yard line, and so imagine a stadium, football stadium. Stay on the 50-yard line. You have to run to the top of the S,
Okay.
like to the top of that
Yeah,
section,
yeah.
back to the 50.
Ew.
So
Yeah.
you're spelling your first and your last name in the stadium. Everybody. So if it's like if it's like group 230 group left the weight room a mess. Everybody in 230 group, we're outside. We call them up downs. You guys and call them burpees every 5 yards. Run 5-yard burpee. Run 5-yard burpee. Keep going all the way down. Usually it's like I'll tell you when to stop when I get tired. So you're just out there. So imagine as high as it is today. Your group is the group that outside. Let's go. We'll go do the workout after this, right? So you do that punishment, go do whatever the workout is for the day, and then so that like now it's PTSD. I'll never like. So I'm really like hey, get your weights. I'm really big on like keeping mine is sweat. Like if you don't clean up after, like you're using a machine and you're like leave it sweaty.
It's gross.
I don't want to clean your sweat, and I don't want to sit in your sweat.
No.
So I don't mind if you're sweating. That's what we're there for, right?
Right.
But like clean
Well,
up.
there's like
I don't want to
after
play
COVID,
in your sweat.
especially, there's got to be something everywhere. And if there isn't cleaning equipment in your gym, please say something to someone.
Please find another gym. Let's
Yeah.
start there. Unless you're like a box gym, but
Yeah,
even
'cause
they
you
have
signed a
they
liability
have one
waiver,
of those,
and
yeah.
if you get sick or something,
or
like,
staff, you can get
just say something to them,
gyms
but
are
there's
a mess.
cleaning equipment everywhere. It's spread out everywhere, so it's not that big. I had a conversation with a member of our gym the other day about it because he himself was going around and wiping all the treadmills, and I was like, "Are those really dirty or something?" Like, what? And he was like, "No, I just think it's good to clean them, and I see some people not really clean them, and I like to wipe them up every once in a while, and it was a really nice thing of him to do, and I was like, wow, that's really nice of you. I wish everybody else felt that way.
I agree.
You know?
Let's get into Molly. What's going on, Molly?
How's it going?
You good?
Hey guys, I'm good.
Yeah.
Molly makes
Thanks
muscles.
for having me.
Other than your personal space, so I'll make sure I stay over on this
That's
side
right.
of the table.
You're good.
Who got
I was
no?
like,
Who got
we're
no? Okay,
good.
cool.
Can
All
I
right.
use your microphone, though?
I'll share my cables.
Okay. Cool. So I like that. Molly makes muscles. Is that your tagline? Is that a
Molly
thing?
Makes Muscle is my,
Is your
Executive Fitness Solutions would be like my,
okay?
more of my,
But Molly
my
makes
business
muscles like
name.
your IG.
That's my Instagram handle. Yeah.
Okay, Molly makes muscles. You guys go and follow
It
her
rolls
now.
right off,
Yeah, it does roll out right off. Did you come
So
with that
how
with
do you
yourself?
make muscle? Tell us about what you do.
Like from the very beginning, how did it all
How did
start?
you?
Or
Yeah, like
kind of
where
a
did you get
snapshot?
started? Because what I am aware of thus far is you are in online coaching, and it's not just online coaching; it's more consulting, and we'll get
Correct.
into that. But how did you go from, the standard, in-person training? Like, what made you want to go the virtual route?
So, I mean, my whole story with like becoming passionate about health and fitness in the first place, was a happy kid, but then hit my teens and like a lot of women, ended up with eating disorders.
Yeah.
And I was, initially it just started off as I want to get into better shape.
Stop. You can't skim across the eating disorders.
Right.
I've been there.
Okay.
So-
I've personally never been there.
I know
I've dealt with
exactly what
people
she's
that
referring
have, and I've coached people, but I don't have
Right.
personal experience through that. talk to us. Let's pause there for a second because I'm sure there's somebody that's listening now that either is struggling with an eating disorder or may have in the past. Just want to make sure they stay off of that path. Both of you guys, I would love to hear perspectives, starting with you, Molly, on A, what you struggled with, B, if you're okay with sharing that, B, with how you overcame that, and then 3, how you coach those things now.
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, I work with executives currently. Most of them don't have formal eating disorders. However, the personality traits that send executives into, places where they don't know how to eat properly and they don't know how to work out properly are the same personality traits that essentially sent me into eating disorders, which was like perfectionism, being very black and white, being very all or nothing. And like I was saying, like originally my desire was just to be more fit, and I did not understand how to do that properly with diet. So for me, it was this slippery slope of, again, I hit 14, 15 years old, and I was like, okay, I am eating essentially like, nutty bars and cheese wheels. It's time to and so I was a healthy kid, but it would have been good to transition into something, sustainably healthy. And for me, it turned into restricting food, so anorexia, and then bulimia when my parents were like, hey, you gotta eat, and then I was like, no, control. I worked so hard for this, and I'm not going to give that up. So for me, and then that was, honestly, almost 5 years, most of my teens. Wow. So not until I got into my 20s did I think, I saw a lot of doctors, a lot of nutritionists, and something that I learned going through tons of treatment that essentially did not work was finally, like, going into my 20s, there was this one woman, her name's Constance Rhodes, and she led a faith-based support group in Franklin. And I remember I saw a lot of doctors, a lot of nutritionists that I did not look up to. And I was like, I don't want to look like you. Yeah. So I'm not going to listen to you. And this woman, Constance, was like, I just saw her as someone I looked up to. I was like, you're really fit, you're beautiful, you have a life. Right. She had stuff going on and was living a great life. And I was like, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And I remember there was one time where we went around the circle and talked about how our week was going. And I said, I'm doing fine. And she pulled me aside afterwards and said, you're not fine. You're not going to be here next week, essentially, if you don't get this together. And I was 83 pounds. So, wow. I was, hospitalized.
In your 20s?
Oh, yeah, up until 20. So it was bad, hospitalized twice. And finally, she made a big impact on me. Also, again, my desire was to know how to be fit and lean. So once I started learning more about, like, first of all, just wanting to have a life as a 20-year-old, having people I looked up to. And then also, I remember Jillian Michaels, The Biggest Loser. Yep. She had a book called Master Your Metabolism. And I remember reading about, like, just basic stuff like omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. When you eat protein, you can build lean muscle. And I remember thinking, okay, I can use food to give me an advantage. So instead of looking at food as, like, it's going to make you fat, it was like, you can leverage food to function well, perform well, and to look really good. And so that's when for me, it had to make sense. I was like, I'm not just going to, you guys can't just spoon feed me, a meal plan. I'm not going to take it unless I know it's going to give me an advantage.
The thing about eating disorders is for everyone, it's like when you were saying, like, the nutritionists and doctors that I looked up to or that I didn't look up to, like, didn't look like or represent anything that I wanted. So it didn't make sense to me to, like, take their advice. And that's so interesting because there are plenty of nutritionists of all kinds of body types and everything. And I think it's different for each person how it manifests and what helps. Because for me, it was similar, but different. And, like, it was the, like, literal factual science that helped me make it make sense. Yes. And I was like, oh, what the hell am I doing? Like, oh, that makes sense. I get it. And that's what helped me heal from that and get out of that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
So cool. Yeah, and honestly, again, the executives I work with, like, on a similar note, they want to get into better shape because they want to be a leader and they want to represent that in the way that they look. Yeah. They know their role models for people. Yeah. Their image does matter. So in a similar sense, they really value being someone that embodies leadership and doesn't just, boss people around. Right. And so that was something that I saw in myself. I'm thinking, okay, the people that I listen to, they have to embody it. And so that was something I think I, learned as a coach. I was like, I want to be that kind of coach that lives it, that walks the walk and doesn't just talk the talk. So that was interesting. Yeah. And again, just like, that's when I really started learning about how food can help you optimize your shape. And also coming out of eating disorders, like that's where I really had a love for not just eating healthy foods, but flexible dieting, where it really is about like hitting targets. I know people don't want to hear about calories and macros, but the truth is that's what will set you free. If you can learn about some of the basic targets, and it's different for everybody, the targets that they really need to focus on, but you know, getting some of those basic, I call them PNTs, personal nutrition targets, getting some of those basic targets dialed in is what allows people to use the foods they want to hit those targets and get into really excellent shape. And so,
and then after a while, you kind of like
have
this,
it is intuitive,
like, system that you know, and it be like that's the thing about intuitive eating. And like, I'm not a nutritionist, but I think some people are really hard fast on don't ever follow any calorie counting, macro tracking, and it's like, sure, if you're just doing it uneducated on your own, but if you have the accountability and you learn, okay, like I like this, and you take those notes, and then it becomes intuitive eating. It can become mindful eating. So it's like, it's such a like vast world to dive into, but continue with.
I was going to say, like, on that note, I think a lot of people are resistant to food tracking because they've done it before, but they either didn't have their targets set correctly, so either they were starving or didn't see results. So they're going, this is a waste of my time. Why would I do this again? Or they did it and they weren't learning about why they were eating the way they were eating. So
Science.
I mean, just part of my process is absolutely tracking food until you reach your goal. Once you reach your goal, you should have learned enough about your targets, enough about why you're eating that way. And that way you can sustain, you know, you're hitting your goal and sustain that intuitively. But only if you have someone explaining, this is why we're hitting these targets.
That's the accountability piece. I think if I had somebody like coaching me at the time that I went through that, like it wouldn't have happened, obviously, because I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought I got really good at exercising and eating good, like, you know, in air quotes, dieting. And your diet is your diet. Everybody's got a diet, you know, like, but I can go on.
Eating style.
Yeah,
no, totally agree.
Cool.
Anyway, so like I was going to say, after reaching my 20s and coming out of eating disorders, then sort of went like towards the opposite end of the spectrum and got into lifting weights, which was healthy because I was finally a healthy weight, but then essentially was, you know, 20 pounds above where I'm sitting today, which is where I'd like to be. Was lifting weights, but really hadn't learned honestly about like rest days. And so at that point, like I was eating more food, I was a healthy weight, but was working out like 7 days a week.
All the time,
And was just lifting as heavy as I possibly could. So I was really strong, but like didn't understand rest days and how important that is. And still honestly like wasn't giving my body still enough food, really. So at that point, sort of in my early 20s, I was very passionate about fitness and health at that point. Started working at Prairie Life Fitness. I don't know if you guys...
I'm familiar,
Yes, you guys remember? Yeah. Okay, which was a great, you know, luxury health club. Awesome. And I loved that. Like, I loved the in-person dynamics. I loved seeing people in person. However, what I learned from that experience was I saw these people come in day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, and they weren't changing. You know, the regulars. And these were people that had successful businesses. You know, these were high-achieving people who had life success, and were showing up religiously in person, but their bodies weren't changing. And I remember thinking, man, like, I love that these people are in the gym, but like, there's something missing here.
Yeah.
And so that was something that I learned from that whole experience, that I loved in-person coaching, but there was something missing. Anyway, early 20s, 24, got pregnant with my daughter, Tegan. So had my first baby at 24, and then 19 months later had my son, Kieran. So had 2 babies back to back. And for me, that was actually like sort of my final transformation shift. That was the first time that I had taken, still working out through both pregnancies, but that was the first time I took intentional rest days off at the gym. And that was the first time I also realized, you know, if I'm only going to be in the gym 4 to 5 days a week, which is what I have realistically, I need to be working out optimally. I have to have a better strategy so that my time in the gym really counts.
Side note, if you know what you're doing, you can do 2 or 3 days in the gym and work out optimally to where those rest days are fueling your muscle gains. But that's a whole other conversation.
And those are really the transformative workouts. So for me, that is where my expertise actually leveled up after I had my kids. And so for me, and also same with food, learning like, okay, how to get that the layer of body fat off. And so oddly enough, also
Was it like a mind, for lack of a better
Yes.
word, was it crazy for you going through pregnancy and like having to like, because they always say like, oh, I'm eating for two, you know, I'm eating for me and baby, you know, it's like the food cravings, all of that. Was that like a super like, ugh?
Trigger?
Oddly
Did that trigger
enough,
you at all?
No, I
No?
felt like I was more stable through pregnancy, probably because I was taking a few rest days
Yeah.
and learning about how to eat more correctly. So
Learning.
oddly enough, like the first time I ever saw defined abs was after both my kids. And
Boom.
so that for
Wow.
me was like, that was a big aha moment. And
Mine
I
was
think,
after injuries.
isn't that wild?
Yeah, it's crazy. I always tell people like if you just stop focusing on having abs and you focus on having core strength and like functional strength overall, you'd be surprised what else comes with it.
Right.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's not what you
Wow.
think sometimes.
I know.
And that was for me, and again, this goes very much in line with the people I work with. Executives are like, they're so happy to wake up they're crazy. They'll wake up at 5 a.m. to do 2 hours on a Peloton, 7 days a week. I mean, I know people who come to me and they're like, I've worked out for 600 days in a row and I'm not seeing results.
Do you think
They
that's
are driven, you
like
know?
a mental thing that might not be like changing their body, but maybe it's like I need to do this for like just to start my day or something?
I think it's their strength. It's why they can be executives and
Right.
run Fortune 500 companies
Yeah.
and travel and have families. They can do it all, but they are not being effective with their workouts or the way that they're eating. And so that's
Right.
where we need to like shift it. And it's fun to show them that sometimes it's not about doing more. It's actually about doing less, but
Yeah.
doing the correct shifts. And
Is
it's
that ever
different for
difficult?
everybody.
Does anybody ever like resist?
Not
I've done
when
that
they
with
see the
some
results.
in-person
You know
clients.
what's helpful is I will tell them what to expect. I'll objection handle before
Yeah.
they can say, but I already run every day. Like, do I really have to stop? I'm going to say, it's going to be hard to taper back a little bit on the cardio, but trust me, your body will transform. And when I say it like that and I let them know I've done this before, then, once they see the changes, they're down with it.
You're
But
the expert.
yeah,
you know?
ultimately, I think that was sort of when I felt like I was like, okay, I am an expert at how to be sustainably lean year round. And that was, after I had both my kids, I got into the best shape I had been in at, I would say, probably 30. I'm 32 now. And so here I was, older than I had ever been, 2 kids, got divorced in 2019. So full-time mom, full-time online consulting business. So less free time than I've ever had. But with a process that works.
Optimizing your time.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is time condensed and optimized on every level. And also for me, I realized that, it's 2 parts, right? You have to have something that is effective. Like our bodies follow a science. I say that all the time. I hope people understand what I mean when I say that. Like your body is going to not respond to certain things and it will respond to certain things when it comes to food and fitness. So if you're going to try a plan or invest in coaching, like it has to be technically sound on the science side of things, okay? You can't follow your feelings, right? So there's got to be a scientific reason for the way that your workouts are set up and the way that your diet is set up. However, the other piece, when people are looking for long-term success, is you have to be able to sustain it. And so, maybe, for example, people will try like intermittent fasting. And they're like,
Right.
okay, so I've seen people with case studies. I know that this works. When I do it, it works, right? And people will say, well,
How long can you do it though?
correct.
There's so many of those
people will
little
say it
things.
works, and it's like, okay, you're dropping 3 pounds throughout the week, and then every weekend you eat those 3 pounds
It's the
back.
same as like jumping into like this new gym membership where the classes are crazy and you're going every day and then you're like, then you burn out and then you don't go back. You
Right.
can't be consistent if it's not,
Lifelong,
Yeah,
correct.
exactly.
So that's the other 50% of the equation, and that's what I focus on with executives is like really custom tailoring it to their lifestyle, and that is important. And sometimes that's not information you can find on the internet, right? You have to start with each person and sort of reverse engineer it to fit them.
Yeah, reverse engineering is a good way to put it, and like trial and error. That's the thing that I think you have to have patience because sometimes like, I'll be helping a client with something nutritional, something, that they're doing outside of our sessions and they're getting frustrated and it's like, okay, I understand. I totally get being frustrated with where you're at because you're trying to change it. But we've only like tried this for 1 week. You have to give it a little bit more time to kind of like let your body adjust and let those things kind of fall into place. And then after like a month or so, if like we're seeing things trending downward or not trending at all, then yeah, we'll consider other things. But yeah, I mean, okay, so you keep saying the word executives. You train executives. So tell us a little bit more about how your company, when did you start your company? When did that really take off? Like, how did you, like really know how to put the plan in action and then where you're at now?
So again, like just before COVID was really where I was starting to focus on online coaching. Because again, I saw for the kinds of transformations that I was wanting to give people, I knew that the in-person model needed more. And so I was, just before COVID hit, was starting to do some online coaching myself, was starting to, I started the Instagram, I was posting, and it was okay, but I was having trouble finding people that were highly motivated.
Right.
Because again, for the way that I coach and for the online consulting model, you do have to be motivated. It would not be the best fit for
It's
people
not
who
like,
are unmotivated.
I've never done this before.
Yeah, or
Teach
who
me how to
are
work
not,
out.
who need the in-person hand-holding. It's not the best model for that. So I was struggling to find people that were highly motivated, and did it for a little bit on my own, and then ended up working with my mentor, Sameem Rouhani. And fitness business mentors.
We were talking a little bit before this. I've delved into online coaching, and I've since kind of taken I pivoted from that because like I wanted to do some other things, but I still do it somewhat, and it's on a much smaller scale. That name jumped out at me because I had hired a mentorship company to help me like get my business off the ground.
Right.
And everything that they told me to do, I'm actually still having to, troubleshoot and reverse that process because it really like messed me up and put me out financially, like demotivated me. And then when Sameem is his name, I saw him on Facebook and he popped up in an ad, just like a bunch of those like coaching companies do. But whatever he had said in his like, Facebook status it jumped out at me. So I clicked on it and I just kept watching videos and stuff. And like, I just liked the page. I didn't have to pay a dime. And I learned so much from this guy. So I think it's crazy that like, this is the guy, him, and this was your mentor. So tell us a little bit about that as you were.
Yeah, and he was formerly an Equinox coach.
Right, yeah, and that's his whole thing.
Crazy
like how
story.
to make, yourself an Equinox coach without being an Equinox,
Correct. Yeah, his story's crazy. He actually got sick like in his mid-20s, and that's when he transitioned to online consulting and realized that like his best clients were happy to just pay for the plan. They didn't need the in-person hand-holding. They just needed the plan. And so he already had the system for that built out completely. And it's also just like really knowledgeable with health and fitness in general.
Dude,
like
super smart.
Really, really experienced. And so, so for me, he sat down with me and he's like, I think with your personality type and with how you want to coach, he's like, I think you need to be working with executives. These people are top performers. They care very much about their image, but they also want to perform well too, and they want to be healthy. So for me, it was this like, I want to help people look good because that is what I care about. I love the bodybuilding world. I love the chiseled physiques.
Yeah.
And B, I want people to be able to do it in a healthy, flexible way where they can still have a life, they can still eat with their families, and they can travel and have the freedom to do that. And so he kind of put those two together and was like, I think you need to be working with executives, and I have a great system for you to be able to connect with those people on LinkedIn. Also for me, I am just not the fitness influencer. If I could never be on social media, I wouldn't be. So LinkedIn, I was like, that sounds fantastic. So I've built, a network on there, and that's how what's cool is I've met people locally in real life, know, that way, but through LinkedIn essentially. So it's been wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so tell us about where it's at now. Like, what does the day-to-day work day look like?
Sure. So, I mean, what's nice about this kind of coaching model is I am not training 500 people at a time. You know, I'm working with a handful of people who are
that was a big
really
turn
dedicated
off
to
from
this.
the other mentorship.
Yeah.
Was like, you'll have over 200 clients in your first 3 months. I'm like, say
That
what?
doesn't
like,
sound
why
good
would I
to
want
me.
that?
Don't
Why
sign
would
me up for
anybody
that.
Want that?
And
Those
so
people can't be getting like
quality.
no. Thank you. Yes.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I really enjoy that piece. It's really nice to spend my time with a few people at a time.
That's awesome.
And be able to actually deliver transformations. And yeah, the biggest thing, I would say the biggest difference between how my process works versus more like generic meal plans or generic nutritionists or generic in-person trainers is a lot of these executives have already hired all of those people, and they kind of blame themselves for not following the process where they'll go, I know I need to be eating healthy or I know I need to get my butt in the gym, but like, I'm just not doing it. And they blame themselves because they've seen temporary success in the past. But again, what they're not realizing is there's a lot of ways to lose weight. But again, if this is going to work, and certainly if it's going to work for them with 16-hour workdays, with weekly travel, with families and other responsibilities, it has to be reverse engineered to fit them. So before I ever prescribe anything in terms of diet, workout routine, healthy habits, I'm like, we are going to talk about what your schedule is like, and we're going to talk about what you're eating right now, how you're working out right now, and we're going to go from there.
Yeah,
and so
you have to know what they're doing first before you can change it.
Correct. And so, I actually start off typically with a nutrition audit where instead of prescribing, here's your meal plan, eat chicken, rice, and broccoli for the next 12 weeks, I promise you'll be shredded, which a lot of them have done before. I see how they're eating, and that will show me, what is technically not working for them.
I do that with my clients as well.
Where you got to look at their targets. You got to see how are your food targets set up, because if you're not giving your body the raw materials that it needs to build lean muscle or drop body fat, then it's not going to perform for you. You got to know how to prompt it in the right way with food. So that's the first thing we look at. I can see what
patterns, cravings.
That's the other thing is I can see. Well, and the other thing is I can see what their routine is like. I can see how they are eating, what times of day they're eating.
Right.
Again, how often they're eating in airport food courts and with travel. And that's the other piece of it. So that when I create their meal plan, it is built out of the foods that they enjoy eating, and it fits into their lifestyle. And so it's more like internal optimization within their
you
current
hear that, guys?
diet.
You can still eat foods that you like and lose weight.
Yeah.
Just a reminder.
But, and it does take both. People need to realize you can't just feel your way to a healthy body. If you are looking to go from good to great shape, and a lot of these guys, they want to be the guys where they're like, I feel really young, I don't look really young, but I know I could be the guy at the pool that doesn't look his age.
Yeah.
They know they have what it takes. A lot of them are former athletes.
Well, that's
and
so important to point out, I think, to someone like me, and I'm pointing it out if there are trainers and things where we take fitness so seriously, athletes, we're very much so invested. And I think there are other people who have priorities like their careers, which are not fitness related. They're, they're executives and they have 16-hour work days, and it's nothing to feel guilty about. And that's why people like you come in and are like, we're going to reverse engineer the process here of what you're doing, and we're going to figure out how to make this work for your schedule, not having to okay, now I have to literally carve out half of my day. I can't spend time with my wife, my husband, whatever, my kids. You can, so I think it takes a lot of guilt out of the equation, is for
100%.
people to know, no, this isn't your fault, and you're allowed to prioritize your job. You're allowed to
100%.
prioritize whatever it is you want to prioritize. And health and fitness is just something everybody has and needs, and we all have human bodies, but some of us, like Jarrell and I, we all really love to work out, and I would love for the whole world to love it as much as I do, but you don't have to love it like I do. You just have to find the right things that do help you become healthier and live a better lifestyle as far as that goes.
And I think you touched on something earlier where you were saying with your clients, sometimes you talk about how they need to pivot depending on what's going on in life. Sometimes you do need to pull back a little bit from that.
Yeah, and that's just life.
And honestly, that highlights how important it is to have a mentor or have a coach that is paying attention to you.
Yes.
And most of the people I work with haven't really had that. They've had coaches dish out cookie cutter meal plans.
That's exactly where I got eating disorder. I didn't know when or where or how to pivot, because I did really good until I was going too good. It was I was slightly overweight in college. It wasn't freshman 15, it was freshman 30. And a doctor told me that, and I was like, no, and completely committed to it. But long story short, I did really good to the point where people started noticing, and they're like, oh my God, you're glowing. And I'm like, thanks. And then a few months later, it was whoa, she ain't glowing no more. Something's off, and she does not look good. And I was irritable and all these, So I didn't know, I didn't have the mentorship or the trainer or the education to know when to pivot. And here we are, lo and behold, now I am that person that I want to be that person for other people. And you are too, So it's huge to have that accountability.
The perspective shifts too. And again, sometimes when you're this close to it, you don't know what you're doing wrong, right? Someone could be like, I've been religiously doing keto for, again, 6 months, and I gain this, lose and gain the same 20 pounds over and over. And I'm doing it religiously, I'm doing it correctly, and it's just not working. Meanwhile, I could zoom out and be like, I'm just eating about 1,000 calories too much every day,
Yeah.
And it could be that.
Do
as
keto,
simple as
just
that.
Less.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
So sometimes it's, again, it's not typically not about doing more. It's about making the strategic tweaks and closing the gaps where they're really losing ground. So I think that's, and sometimes it's as simple as, very practical stuff too. With executives, they are so busy, constantly on the go, constantly traveling. So it could be something as simple as doing a future forecast, looking ahead to the week and doing like a menu audit in advance where it's like, all right, we know you're going to have this business dinner. There's going to be drinks, there's going to be food. Here's the menu. Let's sit down at the table in advance and decide what you're going to order in advance so that we can prevent mistakes before they happen instead of constantly having to correct.
So communication, is that ever a struggle with people virtually, people who are... I feel like I need to let Jarrell ask a question.
No,
as
you're
well,
good.
because I've been asking
I'm chilling,
so many
baby.
questions.
I'm good. Hey, I'm chilling, yeah.
But I mean,
We're in the zone.
does communication do you ever struggle with like getting somebody to like I've struggled with that. Just that's why I'm asking with online clients, because like I'm so invested because you paid me your money. Like I want to help you. Like, so I'm there, and then it's like I won't hear from a person for like 2 weeks and they're not doing their program or something. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I can't do anything right now. And then they come back and like, oh yeah, everything's great. And I'm like, but you're not doing anything.
Holding my breath over here, yeah.
Yeah. So do you struggle with that at all?
I think first of all, with like the online consulting model, I work with a lot of consultants, actually. I've worked with a lot of executive consultants.
Right.
And so they definitely understand how all of that works.
Yeah.
So I would say for the most part with the people I work with, they're used to being on Zoom meetings. It's already, and it works very well for them. So there's, I would say, less logistical challenges there compared to the in-person model. And also
it sounds like it's a certain type of person that
absolutely. It's the right
to do it and benefit from it.
And also with them, and probably with most people, it's more about having access to me to be able to ask the basic questions so that they don't make mistakes.
Right.
And sometimes that's as valuable as like the weekly check-ins. It's just to be able to be like, I'm at an airport food court. These are my options. What do I do? Yeah. And that's where they learn the real life skills of how to, dodge places where they would typically fall off.
Right.
Yeah, but you're exactly right. It takes the right kind of person. Yeah. But also the coaching model where I'm not trying to instruct 600 people at a time. So premium program, premium prices, invested on both sides. Also, it's our responsibility to deliver transformations, and also they're invested that way.
And you probably need to be there when they ask you at the food court.
Correct.
Like, what do I do? You know, like
that is our job.
I struggled with. It's like, oh, sorry, I was doing something. I did not mean to leave you hanging there. But I mean, if it was something like what you are doing, I'd probably be like, whoa, I need to make sure I have, like you're talking about, a structure, a plan, a business model. It is a business. And I think even when it comes to in-person training, a lot of people miss the fact that it is a business. Like, I run my own business. My personal training is my business. And your online coaching is your business. And you have your business. And it's like, that time is valuable. And the more that you have those boundaries and you have those systems in place, the more that you can expect that to go well for you. If you're not setting boundaries, if you're not consistently like improving your practices and your systems.
I was gonna say also like another thing that I grew up homeschooled for 12 years. Always went to some kind of like homeschool group or tutorial. So like I still had teachers, and I remember the teachers that I loved the most and made the biggest impact on me were real mentors. And I remembered I loved learning because I could understand the concepts they were teaching. And that's what actually made me more independent. And so with my coaching, it's my responsibility to make sure that I am coaching in a way to where they understand why we're doing things. And the more that they understand, and the more that I give them access to ask the questions that they're gonna have, the faster they learn it, and then they are independent. And it's not as much, they're not needy. Like they're already not needy people. These are people that are, again, they've got their routines, they're very responsible, they have a lot of drive already. So I know that that's part of my goal is to teach them something where they can retain it and they become independent to run it on their own.
Understanding.
Because at some point, like people need to understand, and like if you're an executive looking to invest in something that will solve your problem long-term, permanently, where you are not hopping from one diet to the next, you're not hopping from one program to the next, you're not hiring coach after coach after coach, you need to be looking for a mentor or a coach who is teaching you why you're doing what you're doing.
That is so huge. I was actually turned off by an employer of mine at the last gym I was at. He told me one time, people don't want to know why they're, they don't need to know all of that stuff. He was trying to get me to condense what I was saying, which is understandable in a group fitness setting. But it really, I took it as,
what?
And he's like, I know you're really smart, and I was like, well, that's not why I'm telling them this stuff. I'm wanting them to understand why, because it's why it made sense for me. Mm-hmm. And I really do feel like that is how you can get fit, how you can get strong, how you can lose weight, how you can understand the nutrition that you need to be following, because understanding is key. And if you don't know why you're doing an exercise, then you're just going through the motions.
Correct.
And if you're just going through the motions, you're not connecting with your body. Mm-hmm. So it really affected me for a hot minute until I realized, no, that person just wanted me to stay down here, And I was like, okay, well, now that I'm woke from that, because my clients woke me up from that, saying, no one's ever explained something like that to me like that before. No one's ever told me what the wedge and the deadlift is. That, oh my God, game changer, And that's so important. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. Understanding is key, and that's what mentorship is. Mm-hmm. And yes, boundaries and things like that, but that's part of the mentorship. Is hey, I'm not 100% accessible all the fucking time, but excuse my language, but I am here for you, and I do care about teaching you and figuring this out with you, because really I'm teaching what I know, but then as far as your body, that's your body, and we're gonna find the system that works for you. We're gonna find that sweet spot,
100%,
together. Jarrell, what's on your mind?
So good.
I'm just listening and learning. So I think that is really, really good. It's really good information that you're dropping on us. You're going crazy with the questions. I like it.
I mean,
I like it.
I just
you're
am
finally
curious,
finally talking out here.
Yeah, I gotta make up for
I love it.
past times.
I love it. Right now we gotta take a pause for the calls. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got everybody on hold.
Yeah, you saw that dramatic pause I did there?
Yeah.
So
I did.
right now this segment is Stretch Your Intellect, sponsored by Stretch Zone in Franklin. So Molly, this is gonna be some random facts.
Excellent.
Okay, that we're gonna read out loud. We'll discuss a little bit, and then we'll take it from there.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, because you didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, Jarrell skipped me last time.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all good. It's probably for the best.
It's never for the best.
Made up for it in this episode, that's for sure. All right. A team of 6 women programmed the first digital computer. No way. They tell you that freaking, what's his name? Oh no, I'm thinking of the telephone. But I did not know that. Where did you find that out? That is so cool. Of course it is. A team of 6 women programmed the first digital computer. Who?
That's all we know, Sam.
I need to know more.
That's where it ends right there.
All right,
That's
well,
where,
I'm Googling this.
That's where
later,
it ends.
But that's a cool fact.
Right.
Do you agree?
Do I agree that?
I mean, is it a fact or is it just okay?
Yeah, I don't think that's
so
up for
cool.
debate. I
feel
can't be like,
really
nah, it was
bad
definitely
that I-
men. What kind of guy would I be? Nah, never would. No way, Sam. It had to be a man in there some way. Who let those people get in there by themselves? I'm sorry, that was a joke, guys. Please don't
We
know
know it's a joke. I'll back you up on that. 'Cause I know that can really take a really dirty turn, and I don't want that to happen to you.
So, a on a lighter note. Apparently, the voices of Mickey and Minnie Mouse got married in real life.
Oh my God.
Wow, both of you guys made the
Googling
same,
that
like,
too.
oh,
We're
wow,
girls.
really? Yeah, like,
We're programmed to do
they're
that.
like, oh, did they really? That's real love, They love a good love story, right? Like, one day we're in the studio, and next day
Was
you're
it
like,
a
you know
happy
what?
marriage, though?
Well,
Google. I'm gonna
I mean,
Google after this.
I think Mickey and
some
Minnie
homework.
look pretty happy.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
That's all I can
There's
go
a lot
by.
I don't know about the inside workings of Mickey and Minnie Mouse's relationship.
Yeah,
though,
Disney is
so.
a wild place, man. I don't know
It sure is.
if you ever.
I haven't been in forever.
It's
When's the last
def-
time you went?
So fun fact, my wife had never been to Disney World.
Okay.
So I'm from Florida. And so I surprised her with her trip so I didn't grow up with my dad. So this is what I did. I didn't grow up with my dad. So I told her while we were there, I was like, hey, my dad randomly hit me while we were here. He wants to meet up. And I was like, I just want you to go with me. Will you go with me? She was like, absolutely. Like, no worries. So that was my way of getting her out. Like, we're on a road trip. So Disney is like 3 hours away from my hometown. So I was like, we're going. And so we had GPS, but I was like, GPS went off. So I had like the instructions printed off. Like
You
the
thought this
MapQuest. I
through.
did, yeah.
MapQuest? Did you say
MapQuest.
Wow.
Long time ago.
I love it.
Long
My mom
time
was all
ago.
over MapQuest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
MapQuest
I
was
had to
it.
find like the written instructions. I was like, hey, luckily I printed off the directions, but my GPS is off. Like it's not getting me where I need to be. I need to get on the turnpike. It's the whole thing. So I was like, well, you get them out of the glove compartment. So she pulled them out and then opened it up. It's a map. And then I was like, I think it's on like the second page. And then the second page said, we're going to Disney World. And then she was like, are you serious? And she starts like crying. It's the whole thing. So
That's
so that was.
sweet. Look at you.
And then we went like a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, right before COVID. We went back because, of course, you can't do Disney World in like 2 days. You have to do like the whole.
Oh, you got to do the whole
experience.
shebang. Yep.
So then we did it again like 2 years ago, and she turns to a 5-year-old every time. Like I gotta get the ears.
I love
I want the
it.
Mickey Mouse.
That's my roommates are that
ice
way.
cream. Like she turns like every time she turns to a 5-year-old.
My roommates
so it's a
just
beautiful
spent their
thing.
anniversary in Disney World.
Really?
They got married last year.
Yeah.
And they are Disney people.
I mean,
man,
it's
through and
cool, but
through.
it's not like if I never go
I'm
again.
not that way, but I think it's
I'll
adorable
probably
that
be
other people are.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause
It's
they're
really just a lot of walking in heat.
yes.
It's a lot
Oh
of
my
like,
gosh.
especially like if you've been before. So I'm trying to show her all the
That's why I
main
don't like water
things.
parks.
Then you have to come back for like the fireworks because she has to see the fireworks at night. You know what I mean? So it's like
They don't have the fast pass
They're
anymore.
literally stealing
they
your
have
wallet
the
out of your
fast pass. There's
pocket.
no
Well,
point
when
in
I
getting
went-
it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I went to Disneyland recently.
Okay,
in California.
yeah.
It was
In California,
really
yeah.
I wanna go
upsetting.
there. I've never been
Yeah,
there.
isn't it?
It was
Yeah,
disappointing.
go Disney World. Yeah,
Okay.
I've
was
been
why.
to Disney World.
yeah. Disney
so-
World is. I mean, after DeSantis leaves,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you can go. Well, it's not a political podcast, but I had to throw that in there.
Well,
They're beefing with DeSantis right now, so you know,
Yeah,
it's
Disney.
kind of a like who goes after Disney? Like right,
Disney.
it's Disney.
Like what?
Yeah, it's a
All
crazy
right,
thing.
man.
Molly, before you leave, one thing that you want to leave us with, one thing that you want to leave our listeners with before we get out of here.
Oh my goodness.
It can be very inspiring or not at all.
I
Yeah.
think it would
No
just
pressure.
be. I think it would be really practical. And again, this is obviously aimed at the people that I work with. If you are standing back and you're looking at your life, going, you know what, I am again a driven person. I'm capable of achieving a lot. I know I'm a hard worker, and I can follow a plan to achieve my goals. If that's you and you are not in the shape you want to be in, and you've tried a lot of things, it's not about you. It's about the plan you've been using has not been properly fitted to you, or it wasn't designed to be effective. Like it's only those two things. And so people need to start by looking for the right plan. And again, I think mentorship is huge. I think now more than ever, who your coach or mentor is everything, because there's almost too much
Absolutely.
information out there.
Absolutely.
You know, and a lot of these
and
people
not
are
every coach
doing
is going to
research.
be right for you. You know, like
100%.
I'm not the right coach for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is the perfect coach for every single person. So it does matter. That rapport matters. Finding the person who knows, you know, who aligns with what you need. Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely.
That's the shortcut nowadays, is finding someone who can
Dude.
look at your situation holistically and just give you the information
That's
that
the
you
magic
need, and
pill
not
right
too
there.
much. Yeah.
Hire a coach.
The right one.
That's your sign.
That's right.
Well, thank you for speaking with us and answering all of my questions today.
That was so fun.
It was
Thank you guys for
really nice
having me.
having you on. Thank you for teaching us about, you know, online coaching,
So
about
fun.
your story. I'm grateful to hear it. And so today, on behalf of our team, Trent Denson, and our engineer is Trent, and Terry Bargy, our producer, our cameraman, Jack Bargy, we are Sav and...
I am the Jarrell Webb.
And thank you guys so much for listening to the NFM podcast.